Have you ever wished you could bring back your dead loved ones like they never missed a day? That's what William wishes for in 2018's replicas, but he really has the power to do it. Spoiler alert, everything from here on is a spoiler, so links to the film are in the description for those that want to watch the film on their own time. As the title screen appears and disappears over a beautiful ocean, a helicopter flies over the jungle of Puerto Rico. At a facility there, William is seen overseeing a type of scientific research at Bio9 Industries. As the helicopter lands, a voice on the PA system says that the donor is on site. William goes to meet them, and some of the staff get anxious while getting ready to see it. As William sees the dead body brought before him, we also see a robotic body in the background. As the body is fitted with a brace over its head that connects to its neural network, William tells Ed to boot the sequence to transfer the man's mind into the robot that is seen in the middle of the room. Once the process starts, they are hit with a positive reaction as they move forward. As William logs into the neural map of the donor's mind, he accesses an immense amount of knowledge that he tries to prepare for transfer to the robotic mind. As he finishes, he tells one of the crew members to energize the body. He addresses the robot as Sergeant Kelly, and the robot tries to work the body as though he's still alive. As the robot asks who he is, the crew can't believe that they're getting a response as good as that. William tells him that he's transferred to a synthetic body, and Sergeant Kelly ends up not being able to cope with the idea of not being in his body. William ends up pulling the plug on the robot. William tries to reason with his boss Jones to keep funding his project, but Jones doesn't think he has enough results to justify funding it anymore. After being told that he isn't close enough to continue funding, he heads out to meet his family at home. He comes home to see his wife Mona loading up the car, and his children Matt, Sophie, and Zoe are inside playing. Soon Ed comes into the house and tries to ask William what the status is about their jobs, and this raises concern in Mona. After William tells her about the success they had earlier that day, she shows her disdain for bringing people back from the dead just to shut them off while he figures out his project. She tries to explain that there might be a soul to consider as the missing piece, and she believes that he is getting too caught up in the science. As the family gets ready to leave, they say goodbye to Ed and head on their way. Soon, a storm hits the island, and William almost hits a semi head-on, but he only misses it to be hit by a falling tree. The tree hits Mona in a way that breaks her neck and impales her, and the car ends up jumping into the water off the highway. When William comes to, the car is sinking and he checks on everyone in the car. Mona and the kids are unresponsive, but he brings all of their bodies out of the car and lies them down on the ground outside. As he kneels there with his dead family, a thought runs through his mind, and he calls Ed to come help him. When he arrives, William pulls equipment out of the car and takes Ed to his dead family. Ed tries to convince William to call the police, but William still believes he can save his family's mind. After they map the consciousness, William and Ed head back to the laboratory to attempt the impossible. Ed tries to make William understand that cloning humans isn't just illegal, but it's also ridiculously difficult to manage. William believes they can accomplish it, and he heads home to prepare. When Ed arrives, he only shows up with 3 pods, and William has to decide which 3 will be cloned. When he draws names, he decides by chance that Zoe won't be cloned. Ed tells him that he's got 17 days to figure out all the kinks on how to transfer a mind properly. When Ed asks him how he's going to handle Zoe, William says that he'll simply erase her from all of their memories. When he gathers all of the memories of Zoe, he hears her voice as he deletes her from the other family members' memories. When Ed is caught at work, Jones asks him if he's seen William, but he covers for him. Jones tells him that if there isn't a positive result, they will be shut down by the end of the quarter. William and Ed take turns watching the clone pods so William can try to keep the project alive. When he returns back home, he realizes that he hasn't thought about how other people would realize that his family is missing from their everyday routines. William logs into his family's social media and personal network to reach out to everyone and explain where they've been. When he goes back to attempting the mind transfers, he is met with negative results over and over. Now that the bodies are 90% complete, he sees an uncanny resemblance to the humans they once were. He pushes forward with attempting the mind transfer, but when Ed shows up, he still hasn't come up with a solution. Knowing that he has to do something or else the entire experiment fails, William decides that he's gonna induce a coma until he can figure out the mind transfer. Inducing a coma gives William 3 extra days to figure out his mind transfer, but he just keeps watching the failed experiment with Sergeant Kelly. At the end of his timeline, he apologizes to Mona's clone, but when it comes time to give her the injection to end it, he gets interrupted by Jones calling him. During the call, he makes an amazing discovery. William calls Ed over to show him his discovery, and he shows him what happens to Mona when he touches her. He realizes that the problem before is the fact that the older test subjects only had a synthetic body. It ended up being similar to a transplant rejection. Now that he believes he has figured out everything, William taps into Mona's mind. Once Mona wakes up, she is fully conscious, and William puts her back to sleep so he can stage the house. Ed realizes the intensity of what they have accomplished, but William only cares about getting his family back. After Ed leaves, William starts to clean the house so it looks like nothing ever happened. The one thing he can't seem to get rid of are the memories and links to Zoe in the house. As he slowly erases traces of her from sight, it becomes clear that she'll always live on in their hearts. The next morning, William wakes up to find Mona isn't in the bed anymore. As he goes through the house, he ends up finding his family in the kitchen getting ready for their day. William sees that everyone is acting like they always do, and he's just happy to have his family with him. When Mona goes out for a jog, she ends up feeling something wrong with her heart. Back at the house, William gets a call from Ed saying that a donor is coming in, but he doesn't like the idea of leaving his new family alone. Mona convinces him to leave, and he goes to attempt the experiment again. When he goes to the operation room, he decides not to move forward with the experiment, and he comes up with a new plan. William ends up taking the equipment with him to the bathroom, and he saves his consciousness on the hard drive next. Back at home, Mona starts to experience some weird feelings, but she shakes it off. Back at the lab, William tells Ed his plan to upload his own consciousness into one of the robots so it's easier to maintain control over the subject. He swears that this is the only way to make it happen without exposing what they've done, but Ed doesn't seem so sure. When he gets home, William runs into Mona, who says something is wrong with her. The more she tries to remember all the time she missed, the more she thinks something is out of the ordinary. The next night, Sophie wakes up from a bad dream where she watched Mona die, and she swears it felt real. As the reality of things hits William, he takes Sophie down to his personal workstation and tries to toy with her mind again. As he finishes working on Sophie, Mona comes down and sees what's going on. She tells William to tell her the truth, and William tells her everything. As Mona sits and contemplates the news she was just told, she can't help but wonder how William could do such a thing. He explains that he was the one that held their lifeless bodies, and he couldn't take it. After hearing this, Mona reaches out and grasps his hand in hers. The next day, William takes the family out to see Ed, but Mona thinks she sees a little girl that reminds her of someone. Once home, the dinner table is a lot quieter than usual, and William notices some odd behavior in Matt. It's here that Sophie asks William who Zoe is, and the entire family remembers little snippets of Zoe from their own minds. Suddenly, the doorbell rings. William answers the door to Jones, who has stopped by to have a personal talk with him. Jones comes out and tells him that he knows all about the 3 new test subjects in his dining room, and they are property of the company. He even goes as far as to let William know that Jones isn't even his name. The entire process is a front, and they are using William to achieve their ultimate agenda. William still can't bring himself to give up his family, but he's starting to understand that the company wants to use his discovery to weaponize the minds of soldiers. Jones can't let his family continue living, so he wants to give William what he didn't get the first time, a chance to say goodbye. As William goes to get the formula, Jones gets men ready outside to take out the family members. When William gets back, he knocks out Jones and goes to get his family. Once back inside, Mona asks William more questions, and he ends up telling her how he had to erase the memory of their daughter from them. He turns things around and makes her focus on the fact that the company doesn't want to let them leave, and she understands the urgency of the situation. The whole family loads up in the car and takes off. As they try to get away to Ed's boat, the company ends up tracking them by the trackers that are in the replicas. William continues to make a break for the boat, but Mona thinks she can get the trackers out of them, so they turn around and head for the clinic she worked at. Once there, Mona decides to use the defibrillator to fry the circuit in the trackers. After they successfully fry their trackers, they hop in the car and head for the boat again. In a last attempt to catch them, Jones makes a call to find out where they would go. Once at the boat, Williams heads down to the dock first to make sure it's safe. When William gets to Ed's boat, he searches for the keys, but they aren't where Ed told him they would be. Back at the car, men from the company take the family from the car and throw them in the back of their own vehicles. As the company brings the family back to where Ed is waiting, Mona finds out that Ed betrayed them. Sure enough, William shows up at the company and starts to negotiate, but when Jones shoots Ed relentlessly, it makes William comply without hesitation. William rewrites the algorithm on how to transfer a mind successfully, and when he's done, he energizes the robot with a consciousness. When we look at the robot, we see that it has broken its bonds and is loose in the facility. Sure enough, it shows up to help save the family, and they see that it's none other than William's mind in it. As the robot takes care of the guards, William gets his family and gets them to the car. He heads back inside to fix one last problem. He addresses William in the robot and he explains that it's like being himself. William ends up negotiating with Jones, and the robot decides that he is the one to stay behind and deal with everything. He hooks up Jones's body to the neural network, and we cut to 17 days later. William and his family are on a beach, and they've got Zoe with them now. Meanwhile in Dubai, Jones is meeting with a potential client, and he brings him to the robot William, who prepares to transfer the man's consciousness. Keanu has done a lot of pet projects over the years, but this is definitely one of the best ones in recent times. You don't want to miss it, and it's the perfect sci-fi film for someone that wants some real intelligence and philosophy in their entertainment. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more like this one. Comment what you think I should watch next, and I'll see you in the next video.